Hello, everybody. I'm Chris Jacobs, and welcome to another installment of the USO MVP Entertainment Series. Thank you so much for zooming in to join us. We got a great one today. It's going to be an interesting conversation and definitely informative for you. My guest today is Suze Orman, financial wizard, talk show host, podcast host, and all-around supporter of the USA. Suze, thank you so much for joining us today.
I am happy to be here, my dear Chris.
All right. Well, you know what? Let me start by saying that if you would like to ask Suze a question, please use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and we will try to get to as many of those questions as possible. So please be patient. We will try to get to them. Some we're going to answer live. Some I will read to Suze, and she can answer them for you right here. So, Suze, how have you been spending your time during the lockdown? Have you been able to stay busy?
I have been busy. I've probably been busier than I've been in years from now, because this is an unprecedented time. And really, when everybody starts to turn to me is when things have gone bad. You know, Chris, when the markets are going up, real estate is going up, everybody's happy, then nobody really cares that much about money. As soon as the markets crash, as soon as everybody loses their job, as soon as a recession or a depression is looming, everybody turns to me. So I must have now given over 40 interviews in the past 2 months on major networks and everything. So I've been keeping busy, but I've been loving it, because the advice that it seems that I've been giving has absolutely turned out to be the best advice that people could have followed.
Now, in 2016, you were given the honor of becoming the personal finance educator for both the Army and the Army Reserve. Do you have a history of service in your family? Is there any military members?
You know, I don't. I mean, obviously my uncles and everybody, but my brothers, nobody ever really served. And it's not that they didn't want to. There were health problems, so they couldn't. But for myself, I always felt a calling for the armed services. And over the years, I've only given pro bono talks, talks where I don't charge for the military. Because how do you not honor the people who are there that have protected you and your freedom? So I've been lucky enough to travel to, Naples, Italy, to speak to the Navy there and the Marines all over. So I've spent a lot of time over these years, many years now, traveling to different bases and literally helping whatever branch of the military it would happen to be with their personal finances. And it's been my honor.
That's great, and very noble also, Suze, of you to donate your time like that. And also with such important information that you have to give, being as financially savvy as you are. And you know what? Let's get to one question that just popped up on the Q&A window. This comes from Claude Wiggins, and he would like to know, how much should he be saving annually towards his retirement?
Oh, Claude, it's so hard for somebody to answer that question when I don't know your age. I don't know how much money you make. I don't know, are you living on base? Are you not? But here is the bottom line. You should be saving as much as you possibly could be saving. Hopefully you are taking advantage of the TSP that the military offers, but hopefully that you're taking advantage of the Roth Tsp. So many of you, in saving for your retirement, you're saving via the traditional TSP. And I think for most of you, that will be the biggest mistake you could ever make, especially if you're in a combat zone. If you're in a combat zone, which has tax exclusion zone, you should absolutely be contributing money to the Roth Tsp. The question just isn't how much should you be saving, but in what funds within the TSP should you be saving. And in addition to the TSP, if you qualify for it income-wise, you should absolutely have a Roth IRA as well. So it's not just how much you should be saving. It's where should you be saving the money that you are saving. And I think I just answered that question.
And you know what? Those answers are very, very valid. I'd like to point out that Suze has written 10 best-selling books in a row. That's quite an accomplishment, Suze. Amazing.
You got that right, boyfriend. I'm here to personally tell you it absolutely is an accomplishment.
Well, Claude, I hope that answered your question. And I think we are going to be going to Claude live in just a little bit. So Suze, you'll be able to ask him some questions about his personal financial situation.
Great.
And better answer that question about how much he should be saving towards retirement. You mentioned earlier how this recent situation in the world has affected the financial markets. Were you surprised at how quickly they seem to have bounced back right now? And are we looking at another possible downturn anywhere in the near future?
Yeah, I'm not surprised at how quickly they bounce back, because what I was surprised at first was how quickly they declined. I mean, it's one thing to have a market decline over a 3-month, 6-month, 1-year period of time, but to have it decline 38% within a matter of a few days really was unprecedented. And then it was, what else do you do with money? Because interest rates are so low now everywhere that money had to come back into the market because there was nothing else to do with that money. And people who invest, Chris, usually have what I call the herd mentality. What everybody is doing, they'd want to do it. Then everybody starts to seem like they're going back, then everybody rushes back in, or whatever it may be. What I'm more concerned about with the stock market than the stock market, because I'm really not concerned about the stock market, believe it or not. For those of you who listen to my Women in Money podcast, and the Men Smart Enough to Listen, which is the official title, by the way, you would have known and it would have been prepared for this February, and you would have been prepared starting in July of last year, believe it or not. And you would have known not to sell out of the market. You would have known to stay in. You would have known specifically what you should and shouldn't have done. And all the shows that I went on, I kept saying to everybody, please don't sell, please don't sell. If you sell, you're going to make the biggest mistake out there, bar none, especially if you have 5 or 10 years or longer till you need this money. What concerns me more than the stock market, because the stock market, Chris, is not the economy. The stock market could go up, up, up. It could go down. I think it's going to trade right around where you see it right now. And by February of next year, I think it will be on another upward trend. But what concerns me more is the economy. And the economy concerns me, especially because so many people are about to have their unemployment checks, stop. They're about to see that their furloughed payments of their rent and their mortgages and their student loans, they're going to have to start paying those. And so those people who have a lot of money, they'll always be fine. Though the majority of people there that don't have more than $400 to their name, if that anymore, I'm afraid that the economy is going to be very rough on them in the next coming year or two.
Yeah, it's a great distinction you made, Suze, that the stock market is not the economy. So they are not automatically linked together. They don't go up and down together. That's very important to remember. And I want to remind everyone who is zooming in with us right now that you have the option of asking Suze a question live. So if you would like to be on camera and ask her that live, please indicate that in the Q&A section at the bottom of your Zoom screen there. A lot of great questions are coming in for you, Suze. I want to get to another one right now. This one comes from Heather Berner, and she asks a very great question. I'm hopefully you will have a great answer for her. She says that we have my husband's GI Bill set up to transfer to our kids, but was curious if we should be doing a 529 as well, since we have 3 kids, or just keep maximizing our Roth IRA, knowing we can use it for education if needed.
Yeah, I wouldn't be doing a Roth IRA for education purposes, because the truth of the matter is you're going to need that money in retirement more than you probably think you're going to need it. So I would be continuing to contribute to my Roth IRA for you, for your life, my friend, for your life. in terms of your kids' college education, depending on will the GI Bill, because I'm not totally familiar with how much of a college education it will pay for, but if they will be needing additional funding, then a 529 college savings plan is fabulous. The place for you to go to get the best information on 529 plans is a website called savingforcollege.com. It's run by Mark Kantowitz, who happens to be the nation's expert on 529 plans. But here's the bottom line. I understand that you want to take care of your children and that you don't want them to go to college with any student loan debt and everything like that. The real question for you is, are you totally out of credit card debt? Do you have at least an 8-month emergency fund? Are you going to be absolutely fine when it comes time for retirement? Are you absolutely set up? Do you own a home? Are you going to have it owned outright? Are all of those things ticking for you, for your own personal finance? If that's true and you have all that extra money, then fine, you can fund your kids' college education. If you don't, you better put yourself first. Do you hear me, girlfriend?
That's very sage advice, Susie. And a lot of people are chiming in to try to understand the differences between a Roth IRA and a Roth TSP. So Osshart would like to know that. Can you explain what the differences are, and does it have a limit like the Roth IRA does?
So I'll explain everything you need to know right now, my friends. A TSP stands for Thrift Savings Plan, and it's really the retirement account that's equivalent to a 401k or a 403b. Mostly corporations and federal government and the military, they offer two versions of a retirement plan, a traditional one and a Roth one. In the military, it's the Roth TSP and the traditional TSP. Both of them this year, you can contribute a maximum of $19,500 to either one of those or a combination of them. And, well, that's $19,500 if you're under 50. Once you're 50 and older, you can contribute $26,000 a year starting this year in 2020. So that is true for the Roth or the traditional TSP, all right? And I'll get to the Roth IRA in a second here. A traditional TSP is funded with money that you have never paid taxes on. And a lot of you are like, I want that tax write-off, I don't care. And you put it in the traditional TSP, knowing that it will grow tax deferred. And then when you finally retire, you'll be able to take that money out. But at that point, you're going to have to pay ordinary income taxes on it. You die, it goes to your beneficiaries, and when they withdraw it, they pay ordinary income taxes on it. In a Roth TSP, you fund it with money that you've already paid taxes on, and it goes into that account, and it grows tax-free. And when you go to take it out in retirement, you can take it all out tax-free. You can do whatever you want. You can leave it in there. And when you die, it goes to your beneficiaries. And when they take it out, it's tax-free. The difference between a Roth TSP and a Roth IRA is a Roth TSP is only offered by the federal government, military, or places like that. Different contributory amounts. A contributory Roth IRA is set up by yourself. The maximum you can put into that is $6,000 if you're under 50, $7,000 if you're 50 or older. The difference between the two is in a contributory Roth IRA, any money that you originally contribute, that you put in, you can take out anytime you want, regardless of age or how long it has been in there without taxes or penalties. So you put $6,000 in when you're 35, when you're 36, 37, you've put $18,000 in there. It's now grown to $20,000. You can take out any of that $18,000 that you originally put in without taxes or penalties, regardless how old you are. That's not how a Roth TSP works. So there's a difference between the two, but here's the good news. You can have both. You can have a Roth TSP and fund it to the max, and you can have a Roth IRA as well and fund it to the max, assuming that if you are filing taxes as a single person, you make under $124,000 a year of adjusted gross income, or if you are married, filing jointly, it's $196,000 a year. If you make under those amounts of adjusted gross income, then you can fully fund a Roth IRA to the max.
That's such great information, Susie. And let's remind everybody that the RA stands for retirement account. You got to keep your mind on the future. Most of you zooming in with us are probably of the younger generation, but Suze has an answer for the older generation also. Her latest book is called The Ultimate Retirement Guide for 50 Plus, Winning Strategies to Make Your Money Last a Lifetime. So pay attention to Susie. She's got great information. Now, we started out this Q&A with Claude Wiggins. He actually wants to come back live now, Susie, and perhaps you can get some more information from him to better answer his question about how much should he be saving for retirement. Claude, are you with us?
Yes, sir, I am. How you doing?
Thanks for joining us, Claude. Now, I know that you had asked that question about your retirement savings, and I know that Susie probably needs a little bit more information from you. So, Susie, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, wait, is there Claude? Oh, there he is.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello,
How are you?
sir, how are you?
I'm well, and yourself?
Good. So how come you asked me that question?
I'm on the later end of my Air Force career, so I'm just I'm trying to make sure I have all my T's crossed, my I's dotted. So.
Right, and how old are you? How old are you right now?
36.
All right, at 36, here's what you really, really need to understand. Time is the most important ingredient in any financial freedom recipe. Nothing will make your money grow more than time. And I'm just going to give you a very brief example of this, all right? You're 26. Let's just say you're 26. And you put $100 a month into a Roth IRA or the Roth TSP, and you do that every single month until you are 66. And let's just say over those 40 years, it averages a 12% annual average rate of return. Remember, over the past 10 years, from 2009 to 2019, the S&P 500 Index Fund, which is your Fund C in the TSP, averaged 14.3%. Right, so let's just say it's 12%. Do you know at 66 you would have $1 million? But you wanted to wait. Here you are, you're 36. You decided, what difference can $100 a month make? That's $1,200 a year. In 10 years, that's only $12,000. I'll start when I'm 36. If you started at 36, like you are right now, how much do you think you would have 30 years later at 66? What's the answer to that question? What do you think?
To be honest, I'm not sure. I have no idea.
All right, it would be $300,000.
Gotcha.
Those 10 years, $12,000, those 10 years cost you $700,000. And that's at $100 a month. So it's not how much should you be putting away right now for your retirement. It's I'd rather you put as much as you can possibly put away right here and right now, even above and beyond the call of duty. As much as you can possibly do, because these are your compounding years. If you were 55 or 60, I would answer the question totally different. I might tell you not to put anything in a retirement account and pay off the mortgage on your home or whatever it may be. But given where you are at this point in time, as much as you possibly can and put it in a Roth TSP, a Roth IRA, but the Roth alternatives. Did that help you at all?
Yes, ma'am, it did. Thank you.
You are welcome, sir, and thank you.
You're welcome.
Claude, appreciate your service, man. Thank you so much, and best of luck to you and your financial future.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you.
Suze, let's get to another question here, and this one comes from Mariella. She says that she is retired from the military and works in the civilian sector. Now that she falls into a higher tax bracket, what are the best options to hedge her investments against taxes? She does have a Roth IRA, a 401k, and several mutual funds.
Yeah. And Mara, hopefully within your 401k, you also have a Roth 401k. Because if you really want to hedge against taxes, the real question is you want to hedge against taxes, not just now, when income tax brackets really are relatively low. If you go back through our history, you will find that we're in the lowest income tax brackets almost of our entire lifetimes. If I were you, I would not be worrying about saving taxes now. I would want my money to grow tax-free. So years from now, when I do need to access this money, I could access it tax-free. Remember, I really think that tax brackets over the next years, they have no choice but going up. We have such major deficits given the government has just funded trillions of dollars to save the economy and all these things. So I wouldn't be so concerned about how do you invest to avoid taxes and tax shelters now that you're in a higher tax bracket. I would be making sure that your money was invested in the best possible way. So if you're taking advantage of the Roth IRA and now you have other types of investments, then I would just make sure that I was in very tax efficient mutual funds, such as index funds and expense ratios that are very low. But my best advice for you, believe it or not, would be really listen to my Women in Money podcast. The price is absolutely right because it's free. And then as times change, I can guide you because what you might be doing today with money would be different in a few years from now. So you have to keep up to date. Also, and Chris, we might as well tell the older people in the audience right now about the gift that we have for everybody. You want me to do it, Chris?
Absolutely. Please, Suze.
Yeah, last February 25th, I came out with a book called, as Chris told you, The Ultimate Retirement Guide for 50 Plus, Winning Strategies to Make Your Money Last a Lifetime. So for all of you where that book would be appropriate, if you just all went to SuzeOrmanAudio.com, right? So SuzeOrmanAudio.com. Right, then you would be able to download, or maybe it's Suze Audio. I'll have to check that for you, but you're going to get a follow-up email, and it could be Suze Audio. I've forgotten right now at this moment, and you'll be able to download and stream for 30 days, 12 hours and 30 minutes of me really giving you a lecture and reading that book to you so that you can get that there's more than just investing. There's all these other things that you have to do once you cross the age of 50.
And you mentioned your podcast, Suze, Women and Money, and that actually goes up twice a week, right?
Yep, that's every Thursday and every Sunday. Thursday, we have Ask Suze Anything. So if you all want, you can go to Apple Apps or Google Play, download the Women in Money app, just search for Suze Orman. And then that's where you send in your questions. And if chosen, I answer them on the podcast.
Suze, obviously most of our attendees are military and military families. And so the TSP is very important to them. A follow-up question to what you were talking about with the TSP a little bit earlier. Iona wants to know for a TSP, is it better to contribute to the L or the C fund?
Yeah. Again, I wish I knew how old you were. If you go on your TSP site, I think I at least find it interesting that they only give you updates to the end of 2019 as to what all of those funds happen to return to you. And if you noticed, you have the 220, the 230, the 240, and the 250. If you look at the 2020, 2000, you know what I'm saying to you. If you look at the returns ending last year of the L funds, you will see that they literally went up the longer out you would have been, if you were in the 2050, you got a higher return. I think it was 23% than if you were in the 2020, which only yielded you about a 9.9% by the end of last year. The reason that I'm saying that to you is that the L funds, the sooner you're going to be retiring, they have the majority of that money, or some of that money anyway, invested in bonds. And I happen to really not like bonds on any level right now at all. So your F fund, which is mainly made up of corporate bonds and bonds like that, really only returned, I think, 7% last year, not a very good yield on any level. And so I would be absolutely staying away from the F fund. The C fund, however, the C fund, if you look at it, returned a 31% return, if my memory serves me correctly, as of last year. So if you have at least 10 years or longer till you need this money, I would be personally dollar cost averaging into the C fund if I were you. I wouldn't want to be doing the I fund or the international fund or the S fund. I would really want more. I would be doing the C fund. Out of all your funds that are out there, if you have 10 years or longer, I would be doing the C fund on a dollar cost averaging basis.
Susie, that's a great answer. No pun intended. You are a wealth of information. Just like to say that. All right, we want to bring in another live question from, this one is from Lori Huertas.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi, Lori, we sure can. Where are you joining us from?
So I am joining you from Melbourne, Florida. I'm probably like 5 minutes from Patrick Air Force Base. I am an Army mom. My son is currently with his wife and my newborn grandson in Fort Bragg, but they just got orders to go to Fort Campbell. So they're buying their first house and moving to Tennessee. Haven't met my grandson yet in person, but hope to meet him in August. And my question is so I'm a professor at Barry University, and higher education is really important to me, to the point where my son just graduated with his master's in Homeland Security. He graduated from officer school. He's 24 and he's starting his doctorate. And so I'm really proud of him, but I'm thinking about my newly born grandson and how, as a grandma, I can also invest in his education. And I wanted to get your advice as far as stocks and the benefit of me doing, stocks and bonds and things like that. What do you suggest?
Yeah. All right, so let me ask you a few questions. You have any credit card debt at all?
No. The only debt I have is student loans.
Student loans.
Because I'm currently pursuing my PhD in military families.
All right.
I still have 3 years, yeah.
And what interest rate are you paying on that student loan?
Good question. I got to be honest with you, I don't know it by heart, but I could look it up.
Yeah. What's important, and was it a federal loan? Is it a private loan? Federal. So chances are you're paying 6.8% interest on that, which is a relatively high interest rate if you are. Can you tell me how many more years until that student loan is paid off?
I have 3 more years of school. But positively, I found out that I qualify for the teacher loan forgiveness.
So the public student loan forgiveness.
Yes, where I can have 100 payments or something, like, as long as I make it.
All right, so now you have to really listen to me before we're saving for your kid or your grandchild here. Public student loan forgivenesses have been very difficult to qualify for. Everybody thinks they qualify for one, and unless your student loan is a direct student loan, and unless you pay it in a specific way, you may pay it and it's for 10 years, so it's 120 payments. At the end of that time, many teachers and people are finding that they don't qualify for it, and now they don't know what to do. So you better make sure that you know if you can qualify for it. Number one, really qualify for it. Number two, if you are on a public student loan forgiveness program, then you want to make sure that you pay back your student loan under the income-based repayment method. And that's only true if you are under the public student loan forgiveness. If you're not under that, you want to always pay your student loan under the standard repayment method. But that would make no sense for you because in 10 years, a standard repayment method, you're paid off. Same thing with the IBR under public student loan forgiveness. So just remember that and check that out. Do you have an 8-month emergency fund?
Yes.
You do. So if everything stopped, you would be able to pay everything in 8 months and no problem. Do you owe money on a car loan?
No.
No. And do you own a home?
No.
No. Do you want to own a home?
Eventually, but right now, education is more important to me.
All right. Education, your education is more important to you,
Yes.
not your grandchild's education.
Yes. 100%. Yes. Yes.
Right? So
Yes.
when you say 100% yes, are you saying yes, your grandchild's education is more important? All right.
Not mine. Yeah.
All right. Let me tell you how to raise really strong kids. You raise strong kids by showing them what it takes to be a strong person yourself, how you have to financially take care of yourself before you take care of others. So here you just told me you're not exactly sure of the interest rate that you're paying. Okay, right? Got to be sure of everything. And I said, did you want to own a home? And you go, yeah. The money that you would be putting towards your grandchild's education and everything, that's money that you should be putting aside for a 20% down payment for a home for yourself. And there's all kinds of ways to fund a college education. There's all kinds of ways to get a scholarship. There is no way at all for you to get a loan or a scholarship once you go into retirement. So these are the years, like, do you have a Roth IRA? Do you have a Roth Tsp? Are you fully funding your retirement accounts every year?
Are you asking me? I'm sorry. I have 401k. Yeah.
All right. Are you fully funding your 401k every year?
Yes.
And do you have a Roth 401k?
Yeah.
All right. And does your employer match your 401k?
Yes.
All right. So you need to, for your new contributions, leave your old alone. Your new contribution should go into a Roth 401k. Your employer's contribution will go into your traditional 401k. Those are the questions that I want you to ask. And the reason everybody watching that I went into such detail here is if you ever go to see a financial advisor, these are the questions that I want your financial advisor to ask. Otherwise, if you just go in and you ask a question of where should I invest, what should I do, they may tell you what to do, and then you're doing the wrong thing for you and your family. So I know I went into more detail there than you were expecting, but I just wanted to give you an example of what a great financial advisor, how they would be interviewing you to educate you. Did that help you?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, sweetheart, you take care.
Lori, thank you so much and congratulations on your new grandbaby. You enjoy and good luck to you in the future. Susie, I want to get to a couple more questions from the Q&A. This was actually the first one that came through. It's from Brittany Botcher. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Brittany. She asks, we have a special needs child and established a special needs trust. However, we haven't actually started saving money. What is the best way to invest for our child who will need our financial support for the rest of his life?
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, if you have a special needs child, then you never want to leave that child money via a trust or a will or outright, because most special needs children qualify for SSI, Social Security income, which can be $600, $700, $800 a month. And if they inherit money, then they're automatically disqualified from that, and you never want to do that to your child. So you set up a special needs trust where money goes into that trust for the benefit of that child, and then it does not disqualify him or her. And so that's why you do that. The best way to fund when you don't have money if something were to happen to you is for you to make sure, because I'm seeing a little picture of you down there, is that you're still relatively young, is to make sure that you and your spouse, if you're married, that you both have term life insurance where the beneficiary is the special needs trust. If I were you, I would go to selectquote.com, which is one of the oldest quoting services out there. I have no financial affiliation with them on any level. And I would get at least a 20 or 30 year level term policy for as much money as you think is needed. At your age, again, I don't know your age, but in your 30s or whatever, you can get $1 million, $2, $3 million for maybe $100 or $200 a month. And you should do that on both you and your spouse, or just you if you're a single parent. That then gives you 20 or 30 years to start investing in a Roth IRA or an investment account or into your TSP or whatever it may be to build up money. So 20 or 30 years from now, then your funds that you've accumulated replaces the term insurance policy when it lapses. That's what I would be doing if I were you. At this point in time, please stay away from bonds, stay away from bond funds. I would be dollar cost averaging into the Vanguard Total Stock Market Index or ETF, into your C fund, if in fact, you're in the military and you're in a TSP, and I would be doing that every single month.
I'd like to remind everybody too that if they want to keep up with Suze and what she's doing, please download her podcast, Women in Money, which happens twice a week. And also those 10 bestsellers she's written over a number of years, all have great information that is still pertinent today. Suze, you mentioned that interest rates have come way down. And I actually refinanced my mortgage and got a great rate. So would you suggest people do that, at least look into refinancing their mortgage, because they could save a little bit of money with these lower interest rates?
So Chris, let me interview you now.
Sure.
How many years did you have left on your mortgage before you refinanced?
I actually just transitioned from a 10-year interest-only ARM to a 30-year fixed. So
all right.
I was paying about 3.8% on my 10-year ARM. I had 3 years left on that ARM, and I'm now paying 3.1% on a 30-year fixed.
All right. And how old are you?
I am 50.
50. So if you had asked me before you had done this, your goal, the number one goal as you're approaching retirement, is to make sure that you own your home outright. Is this a home you're going to stay in for the rest of your life, hopefully?
Yeah. Yes, indeed.
Right.
Yes.
Right. That your number one goal is to own your home outright by the time you retire. At the rate that you're going right now, if you just continue to pay it over a 30-year period of time, you'll be 80 years of age. And I'm sure you'll say to me, but Suze, I'm going to put extra towards the principal so I own it sooner. But Chris, did you know that a 15-year fixed rate mortgage to begin with is 0.5% less in interest than a 30-year fixed rate mortgage? So it makes no sense to get a 30-year fixed rate mortgage with the intention of paying it off early. That's number one. But to answer your question, all of you listen to me closely, because Chris had a little bit of a different circumstance because he had a 10-year interest only mortgage prior to this. All right. Let's just say you have a 30-year fixed rate mortgage and you've been paying on it now for 5 years and you have 25 years left. And now you could, if you wanted to, get a lower interest rate by 0.5% or 1% or who knows how much. So you're going to refinance. Do not make the mistake, however, if you refinance, that you refinance for another 30 years. Because now you have just added 5 more years onto your mortgage, and that doesn't make any sense. It didn't save you any money in the long run. So if you're going to refinance for a 25-year fixed rate mortgage or a 20-year fixed rate mortgage, but never refinance for longer than the remaining term that you currently have on the mortgage that you are going to be refinancing. That is number one. Number two, there are closing costs involved with mortgage refinances. You have got to make sure that you are going to be in that home long enough to recoup by the money that you are saving every month, to recoup those closing costs. So if you're only going to say, let's just say $100 a month on your mortgage payment, and your closing costs are $8,000, and yet you're going to be selling that home in 3 years, you just lost $5,000 by refinancing. Why would you have done that? So just make sure those two things are there. Also, I just want to say, be very careful right now because everybody is refinancing. So I just had somebody from my podcast write in saying, I'm going to refinance $320,000. Closing costs are $8,000 or $9,000. I'm like, what are you, crazy? What are you, nuts? I said, can you check out a few more banks? She went to another bank. Actually, she went to a credit union rather than a bank. And the credit union refinanced for 0.5% less than she would have gotten at the bank, and for $1,200 in closing costs versus $8,000 or $9,000. So do not take the first person that says, oh, this is what it's going to cost you. Check around. Make sure, though, that you have a good FICO score. You want a good 720 or 760 FICO score to get the best interest rates. And if you're going to check many lenders, make sure that you do it within a 2-week period of time, all the different lenders, so it doesn't hurt your FICO score. And also, always make sure that you clear up as much credit or much debt that you have on your credit cards as you possibly can before you apply for your loan, so your FICO score will be higher. All right, so don't go using your credit card for a good month or two before you apply for a loan.
Great information there, Susie. And turning from home loans to retirement plans and then life insurance plans, Teresa Ortiz would like to know, would you give a basic explanation, please, of the differences between whole, universal, and variable life insurance plans?
Oh, you betcha I will. Because anybody who knows Suze Orman knows that on her list of the top 10 investments that she hates is universal, whole life, and variable life insurance. So here's your primer. Insurance was never meant to be a permanent need. It was never meant to be there for your whole life. It was only meant to be there during your younger years, when in case something happened, an unexpected death, those who were financially dependent upon you would have money to continue living. Okay. Whole life is insurance that's there for your whole life. Universal life, it's sold under, it's universal, whole life, and variable are essentially the same, except universal and variable life insurance take money and they invest it in the stock market. And it either grows or it doesn't, but you get your death benefit. They sell it to you under the guise that, oh, you can take out a loan that will be tax-free and it's the best thing out there. It is not, it is not, it is not. If you go on to the Women in Money app that all of you should download, again, go to Apple apps or Google Play. And if you do that, search for Suze Orman, spelled SUZEORMAN, and you'll be able to search my past podcasts and just put in universal life, and up will come an entire tirade from me on numbers as to why I hate it so much. Why do your life insurance agents love to sell it to you? Do you know the commission on a whole life insurance policy, the first year, if your premium is $5,000 a year, their commission could be $4,000 for that first year. It is one of the most lucrative investments for a salesperson to sell you. Term insurance is good for a specific period of time. You are not expected to die with it. So you could buy $1 million or $2 million 20-year level term policy when you're in like your 20s or 30s for maybe $50 a month. The same policy might cost you $500 a month as a whole life policy. Because think about this, there isn't an insurance company out there that's going to pay you a death benefit of $100,000 if they didn't make $200,000 or $300,000 off of you. They're in the business to make money, everybody. So just remember that. You know, you're far better off buying your insurance directly through the military, where I think you get $250,000 for like for almost nothing. So just, you need to really be looking into things like that. But without going on and on and on about it, you don't want insurance for your whole life, because if you have it for your whole life, you're going to pay for it. You are far better off getting term insurance and then investing the difference between what term cost you and what whole life, universal or variable life would have cost you. Invest the difference between those two. And if you have 20, 30, 40, 50 years, since average life expectancies are until your 80s or 90s, great. But never, ever, ever cancel a universal, whole life, or variable life insurance policy until you have a term insurance policy in place, because you never know when you may be ill and you don't even know about it. So never cancel before you have one in place, and don't let some insurance agent tell you, but if you cancel, you're going to have to pay taxes on it. No, you're not. You're going to have put more money into your whole life, universal, and variable life insurance policy, in most cases, in premiums every month, than what you will be taking out, the cash value. So it should not be a tax ramification at all.
Suze, this is so great. I feel this is part financial advisement and part therapy session. You're making a lot of people out there feel a lot better, giving them great advice. You mentioned a little bit earlier that you are not a fan of bonds. So Lisa Baldessano has asked a question. She wants to know, she says, I have a Series EE bond purchased between 1977 through 2009. She has several of them. She is financially sound. Should she cash those bonds in and reinvest them, or save them until she needs the money?
So you have to look and make sure by going on to treasury.gov, the IRS website, or the Treasury Gov site, website, and find out exactly what are the interest rates that those bonds are currently paying. I have a slew of Series I bonds that I absolutely love. And the interest rates back then were so much higher than what they are right now. It's not even funny. But remember, different bonds have different maturities. And once those bonds mature, they don't pay you interest anymore. So please just go back and make sure, are they still paying you interest? If they are paying you interest, what is the interest that they are paying you? And if they're paying you and they're still paying you and it's a high interest rate, just leave them alone. If they're not paying you interest anymore, or they've matured, now you're going to have to make a decision, because when you do cash those out, you are going to have to pay income tax on that money. Sometimes you can do a transfer to Series H bonds and things like that. You just have to check it out, because all the bonds are different. But check it out. Again, go to treasury.gov. Find out what you really have, what they're really worth, what the tax ramifications are. And if you have to pay taxes on them and then reinvest, I would not be reinvesting back into Treasury bonds or bonds today at all. I would really, because interest rates are too low, I would probably take that money, and if you want it safe and sound, just put it into high yielding money market accounts or savings accounts at credit unions or banks. You can go to bankrate.com or NerdWallet and find the highest interest rates out there. Just make sure that you don't put over $250,000 in any one account, because then it will not be insured by the government. And so you just want to protect yourself that way. And if you want, and you have time on your side, and you want to invest in the market, there are fabulous dividend-paying stocks that are out there. Just keep dollar cost averaging, where you take a lump sum of money every month and put it into the markets month in and month out. And if you're going to do it that way, make sure that you open up an account at like Charles Schwab or TD Ameritrade. I have no affiliation, again, with any of these people. But remember, because commissions now are absolutely free when you do online purchasing. So don't go paying commissions somewhere when you don't have to. All right. And Charles Schwab, as of June 8th of this year, now you can buy fractional shares. So if you wanted to buy just, let's say, Amazon at $2,600 a share, but you don't have $2,600, at Schwab now you could buy $50 worth or $100 worth. And that's how you should do it. So don't go paying commissions everywhere, dollar cost average. Don't be afraid of the stock market, but just make sure you have at least 5, 10, or 15 years or longer till you need this money.
Suze, I got to tell you, I feel so much smarter talking to you. This has been so wonderful. I could talk to you all day long, but I know that our time is running short. So I do want to mention the special offer you have for these USO people who are Zooming in and who are going to watch this in the future. I believe if you go to SuzeU.com, SUZEU.com, and use the code USO, what will they be receiving?
Yeah, so do you understand how much information is in me? I mean, it's really important that when you're dealing with a financial expert, that any question that you ask them, because I didn't know your questions, what you were going to ask. They should know. They should know about everything that you need to know. But you have to educate yourself. So out of all these years that I've been doing everything, this is what I want to say to you. If you want to find the best financial advisor in the world, look in the mirror, because nobody's going to care about your money more than you do. And you are all military ready. You are Army strong. You are whatever it may be. But are you that with your money? And you are not in most cases. So I need to get you really financially fit so that you are strong. So the best way to do that is for you to become knowledgeable. And I have a 7-session course that 500,000 students are currently taking, that if you just go to SuzeU.com and put in the passcode USO, then you get it as a gift. Because otherwise it's, I think, $54, but that I don't want your money. I just want you to be strong and to be financially fit. I want you to listen to my Women in Money podcast and the Men Smart Enough to Listen, the official title. I want you to take for free the financial course. I want you, if you're 50 or older, to stream the audio. And again, all of the correct emails and URLs will be in the emails that you will get. But you have to know about your money. You have to know as much about your money as you've learned everything as training for the positions that you currently have. You have to be strong when it comes to your money.
Financial expert, television host, best-selling author 10 times over, and of course, the host of Women in Money, the bi-weekly podcast that you should download and listen to. Suze Orman, I cannot thank you enough for being our guest here today on the USO MVP Entertainment Series. And as we say goodbye to you, I'd like to just turn the floor over to you one more time if you'd like to say a word to our servicemen and women who are Zooming in with us and to their families.
Yeah, from my heart to all of yours, I thank you all, really. I thank you all for offering your lives for my freedom, for everybody's freedom. And I hope you can feel the respect for all of you that's coming from me and from everybody. Because when we see somebody in uniform, when we hear that somebody's serving, I'm telling you, we all sit there and we go, thank you. So from my heart to your hearts, and I hope you can feel it, I salute each and every one of you, and may God protect each and every one of you and keep you all safe and sound.
Suze Orman, thank you so much. I echo that sentiment and thank all of you for joining us today with Suze Orman. And please check with your local USO center for information on future MVP events. Thank you, everyone.